Hi guys, it's another day, so we have another video, and in this video we're going to be doing a book review, the third book in the Percy Jackson series, which is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Titan's Curse. So this book is the third book in the series, so it's already been a few books, so we know the characters well. But this book really introduces a little bit more fear and danger, and really treats Percy like an actual hero. At the beginning of the book, we see that the plot starts immediately, and the readers just jump starts into the story, like we saw in the second book. And in this book, it starts off with Grover, who gives Percy a distress call, and he's warning Percy about two other half bloods that they should go find. So their names are Nico and Bianca D'Angelo. And this is really interesting because this is the first moment Percy's had to really go find half bloods, and he's not the half blood coming to camp now and getting taken by Grover, but he's gonna be the Grover for those half bloods. So him, Annabeth, and Talia, who somehow came back to life in the last book, they all decide to go on the mission to go save them. And they reach the boarding school, which is called Westover Hall, which is in Maine, where Nico and Bianca D'Angelo are. And they also learn that Artemis is fighting a monster which has a potential to completely, if meets with the Titans, could completely bring down Olympus on the way. When they go to the school, they see Miko, and then they see Bianca, but then they also notice something strange about the vice principal, who is Dr. Thorne. So they find out that that Dr. Thorne is actually a monster, or he wants to attack them. So they decide to go into battle with him, and on the way, the hunters of Artemis decide to come stop by and help. And this is really interesting because we haven't seen a group like this before. And basically what the hunters of Artemis are they're basically a group of warrior girls who live forever. They're immortal, they never die, and they're led by their goddess, who is Artemis. And this is the first time we've seen them in action, and it was really cool to read it in the book. You see them fighting, and there's a bunch of people going into attack, and right when they come in, almost immediately Dr. Thorne's down, or he goes away. I don't know what happened, but the sad thing is that Annabeth disappears. She falls off the cliff, and she basically goes to Hades, or she just vanishes mysteriously, and we don't there's no trace of her. Then after that horrific incidents, they take Nico and Bianca back to Camp Half Blood, where everybody's kind of surprised to see who they are, and there's new half bloods, but we don't really know whose children they are, or who's their godparent is. So then after that, they decide to go to the Oracle, because they think this might be like turned into a mission or something like that, because they know that Artemis is fighting monsters and she was taken. So they decide, the Oracle gives them a prophecy where it says that Grover, Talia, Bianca, and Zoe Nightshade, one of the hunters of Artemis, have to go on this mission. And the thing is that Percy wasn't able to go because he's a guy, and boys aren't allowed to be a part of the hunters of Artemis group, which is a part of the reason why that's a group in the first place, and why they're immortal. So they decide to go on the journey, and they venture off of camp. And this is all of the people on the quest plus Percy, even though he's not supposed to be there. But it's great because, knowing Percy, he likes helping his friends out, and he's pretty loyal. So the first person they encounter again is Dr. Thorne, the Monteur, if I forgot to tell you guys. And we find out that he thinks he's working for the general, and we don't know who the general is, except for the fact that he might have a relationship with the Titans, or he might be working for a bad cause. Then after that, after defeating Dr. Thorne, or making him go, they go to Washington D.C., which is already pretty far. They're traveling from New York all the way from there. They're going to Washington D.C., and they end up meeting the general. And the general is actually Atlas, and this is really surprising because Atlas and Luke are working together. We find out that too. We find that Luke works for Atlas, and they're working for the rise of the Titans, or they want the Titans to rise again. And this is kind of weird because um because all of this time Percy and his friends, they only knew small fears, like they only knew about lightning bolts being stolen or monsters in a sea and reviving a tree. But now we really know how big this book might become, because now they see someone from Camp Half Blood, Luke, is actually planning an uprising. So this kind of gives the reader a little bit like like it makes you want to guess on what's going to happen in the coming up books, because now we know that there's an uprising happening. And this directly is correlated with Kronos, who might also rise in later books. And along the way after that, they meet allies like Apollo, who is the god of the sun, and he really helps them because he provides them transportation and guidance, which is amazing. And they also meet Aphrodite, who is the goddess of love, and she really helps Percy because she guides him and talks to him about his future and his relationship with Annabeth. And this really gives Percy a lot of insight, because you can see in the few books that Percy has been getting a lot of advice, not only the Oracle but a lot of gods. And even his dad Poseidon has been signaling, and he got sent Tyson in the last book, but Tyson is in this book. Sadly, he wasn't on the quest. Then we find out about Hesperga, and Artemis is actually lifting the sky. This is really surprising because Atlas was this one sentence to life being tortured, and he had to hold up the sky. But I guess he must have. I guess Artemis was fighting Atlas, or Artemis was fighting some god, or some, not a god. She was fighting a monster, and that monster Atlas tricked her into holding the sky. So that's probably why Luke. That's probably where Luke came into action, because I think Luke also helped out here. And this is really an inference the reader can make, because I don't think Atlas would have just said, "Come here," and thrown the sky on her. I think Luke had something to do with this. So this really shows how someone like Luke, a counselor at Camp Half Blood, can really turn against the people he knows and become someone like that. Then after that, we see that Zoe is also a Hesperaga, which is something new, and she really confronts Atlas, who is her father. And this is a really heart wrenching moment, because Atlas is really a bad person. And after that, Zoe gets wounded, but what's even worse is that Bianca dies in this fight. And this is really sad, and this isn't good, because Nico has such a good relationship with her. So if you guys remember in the so like in the sort of like in the beginning of the book, I forgot this, but I'm coming back to this. Nico, when they were getting attacked by skeletons, he like spawned. He kind of shook the earth, and a bunch of skeleton warriors popped up, and they fought against those. So that's when we found out that Nico was a son of Hades, which is really surprising, because we didn't know that. So we didn't know he could be such a big we didn't know he was gonna have such a big godfather, or father who's a god. And then around the end of the book, as it's all wrapping up, we see that Talia decides to join the Hunters of Artemis. And this is really surprising, because Talia used to be one of the main people in the prophecy. She used to be the person competing with Percy, or she took some pressure off of Percy's shoulder, because Percy always thought that in the beginning that he was the one carrying everything, and he was going to be the one who decided the downfall or the rising of Olympus. But after Talia joined, he really um he found out that it might also be Talia, so all that weight came off a little bit. Then then after that, now Talia joined the Hunters of Artemis, so now it's again gone back to him. So this is really surprising on how the prophecy can change so fast. So that's all, guys. Thank you for watching, and this book really teaches us about friendship, about loyalty, and a lot more things like that. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode. Bye.